Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. One thing I've been wanting to do for a while was to look at some lower tier ships, not necessarily for their actual value in game or their gameplay too much, but more from a historical perspective, if they have, an interesting history beside them, because the historical info on the ships is always also an interesting part of the reviews, and I usually wouldn't review, let's say, a tier 3 ship or something for their actual, gameplay setup and everything, because, you're normally getting across the first tiers relatively quickly. You can do that in half a day or so, and then you end up in around about tier 3 or 4. And there are few ships that you get past as quickly as something like this, because this is the Erie, the American tier 1 cruiser. Well, actually, she's not a cruiser. So the Erie was the lead ship of her class of gunboat. And that came about because, well, after the naval treaty, the Americans decided that, or during the naval treaty, the Americans decided that there would be a class of ships that was not restricted. They were limited to, I think, 2,000 tons, and they were classified as sloops. And the Erie class gunboat is what was designed within these limits. They could have guns no larger than 152 millimeters, I think, or 155. And this was a gunboat slash submarine hunter slash just kind of representation sort of boat. So almost like a small destroyer or a corvette sort of thing, as the British would build them. She had 4 150 millimeter guns, and in single mounts, and she had a bunch of depth charges, and was able to lay mines if necessary. And she was at the outbreak of the war, stationed on the Pacific side of the Panama Canal, but then was moved through the canal to the Atlantic side during the Battle of the Caribbean, which is not something you hear about very much, but the Germans and the Italians, in short terms, were trying to sink and disrupt Allied shipping as part of the Battle of the Atlantic, and they were actually doing that as far out as in the Caribbean. Now, she was with a group of other small ships escorting a convoy when they spotted a wake in the water, and the captain had her maneuver to dodge the torpedo. Unfortunately, that means there was she ran into the second spread that was in the water as well, and got hit by a torpedo from it was a Type 9 submarine, long-range submarine. The ship caught fire, and she set on the ground, burned for a couple of days, and they were trying to salvage her, but I think after they partially raised her, she keeled over and sunk again, and then eventually was just pulled out to sea, and a couple of years after the war, and sunk in deeper water. But definitely not a ship that has to hide, from the rest of things. She looks a bit rusty here in the game. And yeah, usually you wouldn't really be playing tier 1 ships, other than like 2 or 3 games, and then you'd be moving on to tier 2. But there's another interesting part about this, because if we're looking at the stats of this ship, well, obviously we don't really need to look at much at the values. The interesting bit is in the guns, because these guns are mislabeled. These are not Mark 7. These are actually Mark 17 152 millimeter guns, and these are in effect a different mount, a single mount of the guns that we find on another ship. And that are the Mark 16 guns, the L-47s, that we find on the Worcester. So I found that a really, really interesting symmetry, if you want, that the Tier 1 American cruiser, light cruiser, which isn't a cruiser at all, but was classified as a sloop or a gunboat, in order not to be included in the treaty, has, in effect, the same guns, in a way, as the Worcester at tier 10. Now, obviously, in game it's not quite the same because you don't get any armor piercing, you only get the high explosive, you have much shorter range, and the 6-second reload is actually also shorter than on the Worcester's guns. But that's a story for a completely different day. But I still found that rather an interesting little part. So, no, I've put a captain in here. Not that it makes any difference because really you're not going to, you don't have any ship skills or anything at tier 1. Just so she doesn't sail on her own. You probably want the main battery mod 2 and the damage control and the propulsion mod for a little bit better speed because, well, she is not particularly quick for cruiser standards, but for a gunboat / corvette / sloop / whatever you want to call it, reasonably fast. Now, the guns are loading a little bit on the slow side, but she has the biggest caliber in tier 1, as far as I know. So let's have a quick spin, just one battle in a tier 1 game in the Erie. And we find ourselves up against a division of tier 2 ships, actually, but obviously with lots of bots in the same thing. Because it's tier 1 or tier 2, but we're bottom tier. So usually you don't find too many players down here. We're bottom tier, so we do have to be a little bit careful. We do have a tier 2 destroyer, a Samson on our side, which is usually a good thing. And there's the first bot that we can start shooting on because, of course, it's a very small map. So we don't want to go too far ahead because we are bottom tier. But there's a fire on that thing. And yeah, these guns can do a surprising amount of damage, actually. You do have to watch out for your hit points a little bit. And make sure that not everybody's shooting at you at the same time. But they can do a reasonable amount of damage. But they do not fire particularly fast. So now that the rest of my team has actually started catching up, we can take a little rear position here. And just get some shots out at things while the rest of the team focuses on someone else. I am still getting shot at, but they're not aiming particularly well. So just dodging shots left, right, and center here. And you only have 10,000 hit points, so you do need to pop your heal at some point. But now we're just going to sit here at the back row right now and lend some fire support against the ships that are coming in. And it looks like they've stopped shooting at me and are rather taking the other player out there under fire. But we are trying to get the bot killed as soon as we can. Because at this tier, bot or no bot doesn't actually make that much of a difference. It's not that you have any ship skills or any other things that you can really do. So now I'm going to help out against the, I don't know how you pronounce that. Is it a Schengen? I don't know how you pronounce that thing. But that looks Taiwanese from here. Might be from the Pan-Asian line. Well, we'll have to look that up at some point and actually see what we've been fighting against here. But yeah, he hasn't realized yet that you can steer the ship and shoot at the same time, and it's more concentrated on the shooting. The French cruiser there isn't doing much better, but we should have him now. Yeah, we got him. Okay, that's one down. We do have 2 people coming on our left flank, and whatever has been trying to get into the enemy capture circle has died. That was presumably a bot. So there's still a Chester and a Chikuma over there. And I think there's still another player on the left flank. So kind of thinking of taking these guys under fire here, but I think I have to actually watch out that we're not getting capped. Yeah, because the enemy player has just taken out one of the bots, and that thing is almost on full health. And we only have a friendly, whatever that thing is, on the left side. So he's on low health, so I'm going to help out and defend our capture circle. Slowly, that is. Because, while she is not... she is having the speed of a American standard battleship. So the Colorado isn't any faster than this thing either. That doesn't make her very fast, though. So, yeah, we're going to need to help out with that Schengen thing over there. You don't get a choice of ammunition or anything, so it's not that you can actually shoot armor piercing at broadsiding ships. But the guns are not bad, and none of these ships at lower tiers have any armor whatsoever. So you definitely can do the necessary parts. That might have. It looks like it's shooting semi-armor piercing. Was it something Italian on our side? Yeah, that thing there, that's getting shots in. But yeah, we were taking some fire, so we just wanted to get this guy killed while already orienting towards the enemy capture circle. Because that Chikuma and Chester are still alive, and there's only a bot threatening right now. So let's try to get the Chester killed first, because he's got the lowest hit point pool remaining, and see that we get that thing sunk, and then we can deal with the Chikuma without any problems. So the bot is dead, which means they have nothing better to shoot at, but that should be the end of the Chester. Yep, there he goes. So it's now just me and the Chikuma. We are ahead on points, but well, I'm committed now, and he's on low health, so I'm not in any risk here of actually throwing the game. Plus, you know, I've got some advanced techniques and tricks, like, you know, occasionally sailing backwards, you know, that sort of stuff. I've still got that if I need it. So yeah, it's a tier 2, but and I am taking a lot of damage, but now I'm going to sail backwards and let's see if that throws his aim off. See if he's seen that happening before. No, he hasn't. So yeah, you can actually dodge in these things, which is quite maneuverable for the little gunboat. And I can take those shots and take him out. So that's that. And we have done a grand total of 23,000 points of damage. That's not actually dreadful in a tier 1 ship. So there you go. That was the USS Erie, the tier 1 American gunboat that actually had quite an interesting career. And if you look before the Second World War, she's actually been part of American support during the Spanish Civil War, which has quite a bit of importance for the Continental War in Europe. So maybe we'll touch on that at some other stage. But for now, that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. I hope you're not disappointed with seeing something like that, but I'll keep doing these lower tier reviews from time to time if I can find something interesting about the history. A lot of the lower tier ships are World War I vintage. This one actually isn't. This one was a interwar design. So yeah, there you go. The more you know. That's it for today. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.